To get a sense of where India stands in the global race to develop the first COVID-19 vaccine, I'm joined on this broadcast by Professor Vijayaraghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. Professor Raghavan, welcome. Everyone who's watching will have just one question from you. Vaccine kab milegi? When do you think the first vaccine will be out in the market and Indian consumers will be able to get access to it?
This, of course, important question, and this is the way most people will naturally ask the question. But the answer is, in some ways, more positive and also more complex. It's not just the first vaccine, when will you get it, open the tap, and then everyone gets the vaccine. People are struggling to make a vaccine in 1 year, which normally takes 10 or 15 years. A vaccine normally would cost about $200 to $300 million to make. To make it in 1 year requires parallel processing. To make multiple vaccine candidates go through the trials at the same time. To stockpile, even though you're not sure that you will actually end up with using that stockpile because something else will succeed. And then, you have to distribute it in a manner where you don't know what the range of effectiveness of a vaccine will be. How many doses do you give, and so on and so forth. Given all this, it is very important to keep in mind that there will be one vaccine, a second, and a third. Each one will have variations. Some will be better in terms of function, others will be better in terms of the cold chain. So there will be multiple kinds of vaccines. Good news that so far it doesn't look like a vaccine is impossible. It looks like a vaccine is possible. But we have to wait to see which one happens, and many will happen.
There's been so much focus on the global race to develop the vaccine, but I want to focus with you on the Indian race to manufacture the first COVID vaccine. Of all the Indian players, and there are many who are currently attempting to get a vaccine ready, some in partnership with international researchers, who do you think is best placed to have the first vaccine out, sir?
There are three ways you run this so-called race. One is a sprint. This is not a sprint. This is a long haul. The second is a marathon where someone tries to win. This is not that. Each of the players running in the marathon needs to finish, and they will bring value. So it's not that you will be the first and therefore everyone else is out. As I said, the numbers of doses of vaccines we need for the whole world is so huge. And this cuts across rich and poor countries, across all sections of society. Those who come later will learn from those who have come earlier. It's more of global collaboration. There may be aspects of the collaboration which are competitive. That, interestingly, is standard in science, to have competition as well as collaboration. But you're going to see many, many players running through the long haul.
How are you in government looking at critical medical ethical issues like who gets the vaccine first? Because everyone who's rich and watching you will find some short circuit, some jugaad to get or will at least attempt to get the vaccine first. They may or may not be the ones who need the vaccine first. How do you ensure that those who need the vaccine first, are the ones who get the vaccine first?
See, this is not a new ethical access equity issue as far as vaccines go. Right through history of vaccines, when vaccines are introduced, governments try to see in their immunization program where they have to be done. That is not an issue of feeling or where the intensity of the disease is. It's multiple components which look at how the vaccines can be most effective and most valuable. India has something called a National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, which has scientists, epidemiologists, scientists who are also epidemiologists, clinician researchers, as well as social scientists. It's co-chaired by the Secretary of the Department of Biotechnology and of the Indian Council for Medical Research, and the chair is the Health Ministry Health Secretary. This structure takes decisions on how to roll out vaccination in the National Immunization Program. They have intense discussions right through the year on every kind of vaccine, and I'm sure they'll have it on this too.
What's your best sense at this moment, placed as you are so deeply in government with an eye on every single vaccine project, and you're looking at the international reports coming in as well, by when do you think the first Indian citizen will have access to the first COVID vaccine?
Um, India is one of the largest vaccine manufacturing hubs in the world. And therefore, Indian companies will be involved in manufacturing. And when they're involved in manufacturing, there will be a ratio of their products which go out to global equitable access as well as within India. So as the first vaccines come out, I'm sure that Indians will also be part of that.
No, so Dr. Anthony Fauci said in the United States, and that's become a top global headline, that the first vaccine he expects will be out by the end of the year, by November, December. So my question is this: how soon after the vaccine becomes available internationally do you anticipate that it will be available in India, Professor?
Well, that's a very interesting and important question. And that deals with multiple complex issues of stockpiling and risk mitigation. Global vaccine companies, as vaccines go into later and later stages, will focus on manufacturing and stockpiling vaccines which have not yet been proven to be successful, in the expectation that should they be proven to be successful during the trials, they can then roll out. What happens if a company anywhere in the world stockpiles a huge amount of certain vaccine and that vaccine is a failure? So there are risk mitigation mechanisms for that kind of a situation. But there are also risk mitigation mechanisms for access. Even if your company, your national companies, are not necessarily the ones which roll out a vaccine, the way India is and all countries are in partnership with global vaccine alliances will ensure that, according to equity and sensible access, people all over India and all over the world will have access to a vaccine.
Well, equity and sensible access is an important concept, but given the vaccine nationalism that we are seeing, given the looming trade wars between China and the United States, and how everybody wants access to the vaccine first, President Trump has an election to fight. He's not going to be particularly bothered about whether citizens in Europe, South Asia get access to the vaccine. He'll say, if this is an American company, that vaccine stays here.
You know, from a scientific perspective, a little bit of calm and looking at history of vaccine distribution is important. It is a laborious process to roll out vaccines. It's not a digital process, and it involves cold chain access, lines of immunization, multiple rounds of immunization, testing whether large-scale immunization works or not. Globally connected scientists, people who work together, organizations which deal with immunizations, know the importance of immunization on scale, cross borders, and where priorities have to be given. So you cannot do a vaccination program in isolation from a scientific perspective, and people in all countries know that.
You've answered the questions that I posed, which are very difficult to answer in a way that viewers... Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.